So now that Jigsaw, John Kramer, and his former accomplice Amanda Young are both dead, the Jigsaw legacy is passed on to Detective Mark Hoffman. Yeah, it was implied in Saw 4 that he was going to be the new killer, and the fifth installment goes into the backstory of how, just like with Amanda, Hoffman gets abducted by Kramer and becomes his protege. It starts when Hoffman's sister gets murdered, and her killer only gets a 5-year sentence due to a technicality. Hoffman gets revenge by capturing the killer and setting up a jigsaw-type trap, a swinging pendulum, to kill him off. Like with Amanda's methods, this one death was meant to kill its victim, with there being no possibility of escape. When Kramer captures Hoffman, he criticizes his work, furious that Hoffman is taking credit as the jigsaw killer. So he decides to take Hoffman under his wing, and we're shown what traps throughout the series he was involved in. Again, it starts to get really hard to tell these movies apart because a lot of time is spent going back and showing us different angles from things we've already seen. It was unique at first when it was done in Saw 3, but how many times are they going to go back and show us the same scenes? And with Amanda, there was a sense that she really needed help, and Jigsaw was giving her an ultimatum. With Hoffman, I have no idea why Kramer would feel the need to help him, and he's not even an interesting character. So anyway, as usual, there's a parallel story where a group of people are holed up in a dungeon. Do I even need to explain this? They all have something in common and are all being tested by Jigsaw. I will say that this specific scenario is interesting because the movie plays it out like each trap is supposed to sacrifice one person in the group. When they get to the final trap, the two left standing realize that in order to progress, they need all 5 members, realizing that every trap could have been overcome with their lives still intact. It makes you appreciate what Jigsaw is trying to do, and this film does a pretty good job explaining why he puts his victims through their trials. It's also a little more focused than with Saw 4, although the ending still leaves us scratching our heads. It's not as gory as with previous entries, but now that Jigsaw has been relegated to limited flashback scenes, and the one taking his place is completely uninteresting, the novelty of the franchise has been reduced to just how much blood can be shed by its victims. Saw 6 is more of the same. There are people caught in traps, all who deserve to be there, unlikely to escape, and they have to do something horrible to themselves or others in order to survive. There's more backtracking between films, more involvement from characters who have long been gone. There's nothing truly new to add to the formula. The circumstances are interesting, though. In this one, the main target is a corrupt insurance agent, William Easton, who's denied a ton of people medical coverage, including John Kramer. There's a fun line delivered by Tobin Bell that says it all in a nutshell, and I couldn't help but smile.
Healthcare decisions should be made by doctors and their patients, not by the government. Well, now I know they're not made by doctors and their patients or by the government. They're made by the fucking insurance companies.
Well, like in all the past films, Easton is put into a dungeon, forced to sacrifice his co-workers as he tries to survive Jigsaw's latest set of trials. There's nothing that really stands out about any of these traps, although there is a big payoff toward the end of the film. You realize that basically he's just your everyday insurance agent just doing a job, but the film does a really good job painting him as a villain, so you never really feel sorry for him. Then you have the boring Detective Hoffman back to carry on the Jigsaw legacy as he tries to pin all the recent murders on Agent Strahm, which is what he told Strahm would happen right before he was crushed to death at the end of Saw 5. As it turns out, Strahm's old partner Perez, who got a face full of Billy shrapnel in one of the earlier films, is still alive and is investigating the case with a senior officer. One of the more suspenseful parts is when they realize that one of the Jigsaw tapes contains a voice that is not Kramer's, and they send it in to get analyzed, bringing Hoffman with them. The whole time the audio engineer is tweaking the audio levels, you can see that Hoffman's getting pretty anxious. It's predictable what happens next, but it's one of the only times I really felt any suspense in one of these films. We find out that Kramer's ex-wife Jill was also somewhat involved with the various games, so what we have is essentially a little Jigsaw cult that keeps expanding with each film. We find out more about Amanda and her involvement with Hoffman, but at this point everything's so convoluted that it's hard to keep track of everything. It's like they made a soap opera out of a slasher series. That being said, this one leaves you feeling like there's some big endgame they've been building up to. Tune in tomorrow and I'll tell you all about it.